Welcome back to another fantasy video with me, JD. You were joining me for the round 16 review where we dropped spots. We scored a 21.72 and I think dropped from, I want to say 2,500 to 2,900. So gave up all the ranks that we made during the buys, which is just great. As you know from my video last week, if you tuned in, I was very frustrated because I wanted to do Oliver and Sexton to Caldwell and Rankin, which would have been mint trades, but didn't work out with the spots that I had on my side. And actually thinking about it now that McKirch is out, I should have just done those trades anyway. Okay, I digress. Like, not switched on. I'm so far out of the money that, just not switched on. I could have done them anyway now that I look at it. But that's a bit frustrating. Instead, we did Caldwell in for Oliver still for going Rosie. And then we brought in, which, proved to be a good call with Caldwell going 144. And then Evans in for Harrison and fielded against the Saints as well, just with McKircher being out. Scored a 59, which really, better than Young. Not that far off Simpkin or Fisher or LDU. Decent, Logan Evans. But yeah, obviously, a really bad week. No Walsh hurt, which is a very, popular captain option. It's probably the biggest one. Young scoring poorly, but I think a lot of people owned Young. In the midfield, LDU scoring that poorly, he's still fairly unique. So that's, after a good month or so, that's a absolutely disastrous score. Fisher with the 67, which given his time on ground in the mid 40s is totally respectable. Copter knock, should be back this week. I'll be okay with that. Who else scored poor? Nick Martin, 79. Obviously not a great score, but given the wet conditions and how Essendon played, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, given that I think 5-round average must be close to 100 or something before that. So I'm sure some people look to get off him, but Collingwood, D's next two, I think I'm happy to keep there. Young is probably the one that I'd actually consider moving off, but he's got 4, 5, 6 kind of really decent matchups with Tigers, Hawks, D's, West Coast, Essendon, Cats. GWS have been good form. Not exactly Porter's been either. So hard one. If they keep him parked forward more, this is going to be a bit of a priority trade, but I'm not sure it's a priority for me this week. We'll see. And then Evans and Schoenmaker as rookies, making some nice cash gen. Wish this was here earlier in the year. I'm sure we all did with the state of the defenders. Better late than never, I guess. But yeah, pretty annoying. Mids. I had a fair few get tagged this week. Errol, Dawson, Merritt, Butters, all copped tags this week. Worked through them to varying levels. I mean, the junk from Dawson and Goulden late to kind of get to respectable scores. You take that as a coach. Got to be happy with that. LDU as a 67 what did Walsh score? 132. Yeah, it's a pretty big difference. And it's 65 points by itself. That's a bit of a killer. I didn't even mention Whitfield, by the way, 160. So it's been a great hold. I know a lot of people jumped off him, but happy with that hold. I'm still annoyed I traded in 144 and went backwards in spots. It shouldn't happen. And then Day we held because of these nice matchups, but did not score particularly well on the weekend. And I imagine he actually could get attention this week as well. So a 72 against the Tigers and 90 against West Coast. So not smashing the matchups like we'd hoped. We'll get ready to move off him soon, maybe even this week. Have a look at what's going on. He's someone I definitely could move off this week. But I think just looking at this, what makes more sense, and I've already done trades. I just did them 2 days ago, Saturday night. I haven't looked since. Moving Caldwell into my forward line and getting rid of Simpkin will definitely be top priority. In the ruck, so traded in Gawn after he'd gone, 152, 122, 148 out of the side, and he's gone 98, 77 in it. So loving that. And West Coast, I think, put a fair bit of work into him last time, where he only scored a 86. So I'm prepared for a 3-round average of 85 for Gawn, which will be easily his worst patch of the year after I brought him in. Killed me out of the side, killed me in the side. Just not rating well. At least I did hold Cherry and traded English instead of him. So 129, one of the better rucks for the week, which was nice. And then in the forward line, so Flanders good, Zolko good. Fisher, I think points per minute was good. Heaney, poor score, but he was fine. Sexton's role has improved. I was very adamant that he won't be a top 6 forward. With Flanders out in the midfield, he's at least playing half back, second to Powell, and it does seem to have affected him a little bit, getting less kick-ins, all that type of stuff. And I still think there's a chance he gets dropped when Weller returns in, I want to say, a couple of weeks, but it's not a priority trade out for me at the moment, unlike Simpkin, who, despite having the very good role, if we go look at CBAs, I'm sure it will be quite high what his CBAs were. Um, he was just no chop whatsoever. 92% CBAs for a 64 is disgraceful, Simpkin. Billy Dowling's giving me 64s. What do I need you for? Fraser has got some big 70s energy going on. Just bad. Okay. And then did Clary actually finally have an all right game? He had a 109. So, yeah, it's annoying. All right. So, then moving on to this week. All right. So, trades I've done is Simpkin out, Dunkley in, Harvey Thomas out, and Sard in. Now, this I'm already going to change because while I had Dunkley here, I think the player I actually want is Sarong. It's actually the time for Sarong, right? He's got yeah, good fixture coming up. So the same fixture we just talked about with what's his face. So yeah, we'll go Sarong. We'll get Sarong this week because I think he's actually probably going to be a captain option just based on having a look in the Supercoach video that I did. He's very much going to be up there in consideration with the Vice being like a Merit or a Dacos or something like that. Now, I did fixture change the prices. Whitfield up there as D1, lovely. And McKercher better be back this week. My God, if he's not back this week, I will consider deleting the team because it's just like ridiculous. All right, so defenders I don't have that are actually worth getting. Newman and Sinclair, I think, have got to be the top two. Sinclair obviously risks the tag this week with Jordan, so maybe not one you go into, but Jordan finished, Newman finished on a heater last year. Their run home looks pretty good. I'm not sure if it's great for designated kickers, but I think Newman as the pod makes sense. Sinclair as a pod makes sense. And they're probably like the top two of the ones I don't own. Like Sicily would have been worth considering, but obviously had the shoulder injury. And Stewart's really cheap and playing midfield now. If that role persists, maybe past this week, you could look at him into some of these other matchups as a cheaper option. Maybe for someone like me, that if McKercher backfires or something this week, role looks bad, they play him small forward, which is all on the cards, then that could be an exit strategy for me. In the mids, Sarong, you dropped in price. Heavy. So in the mids, yeah, I think like LDU and Will Day here are still my issues. Rosie, I like as an option still, and probably more so than Green out of the cheapies, but I might wait one more week to jump on him. They do have some tougher matchups in here with Carlton and Swans, but yeah, I think Rosie I'm pretty comfortable with. And yeah, I need to get rid of Day and LDU, so I think I'll just keep anti-potting Walsh given his price. Dunkley, you could see, was the other one I was considering bringing in. He's not going to get the tag, which others have. He's found a bit of form. The matchups seem okay. They seem okay. But yeah, otherwise, no one else like I'm really strongly considering from a midfield perspective. Where did Laird play? I'm actually curious about that. He didn't score very well. But if he's playing half back, and that's why. No, he's back into the midfield. Okay, no interest in Laird. Rucks I'm not touching. Like, I guess if you're looking for a point of difference, jumping off Gorn, you could, and probably into De Koning, even though he got rested this week. I still think like that's probably a more interesting one if you're trying to free up money. Imagine if I just jumped straight back off Gorn onto De Koning to make the money. It's not like the craziest thing to consider. It probably sinks my season, but man, at this point, who cares? Oh, can I get, what about 67k? Maybe I can get a better loophole option than Sard here because he plays the first game this week, so I'll consider that. Forwards, so yeah, I think like these 5 here are the best 5. This F6 is the interesting one. As I mentioned last week, I probably would have gone Rankin. I think he's got to start getting attention at some point. But yeah, if it's not Sexton, it's like Rankin, it's more Jackson if Shrek goes down. And there's not a ton beyond that. So really, I think like having Sexton here and fix him up next week or in a couple of weeks is fine. Maybe I can even do a couple of sideways where I get like Day and Rosie, like Day to Rosie or like LDU to Rosie and Sexton to one of these other options, given they're all priced, somewhat similarly, but yeah, too poor a score. I mean, like this isn't F6 numbers, so I guess we'll see what happens this week against North. It should be a decent matchup. Can hold for one more. Less keen to hold against Port the week after. Okay, vice captain this week. So already mentioned a couple that I'm considering or looking at. I think Whitfield, despite his good form, there's probably a good chance he gets tagged this week. The Friday night game is Dacos, Martin, and Merritt, and I think any of those three options are interesting. Even Caldwell, I'm probably leaning, I don't know, maybe Dacos given form. Could be Merritt though. I don't know. I might do one in Supercoach, the other one in Fantasy, just to hedge my bets. Because I think mids, like Essendon's been okay for mids to score on. Not the worst. We're not really tagging, but Merritt, after being tagged 3 weeks in a row, can he go off? Hopefully. So yeah, hopefully. Hopefully. And then I think Sarong I'm bringing into captain this week against the Tigers. There's not really much else to discuss. I think like Goulden you can consider if he doesn't get attention against the Saints, which I think is probably pretty likely that he doesn't. They've got Windy to throw someone at, but I think that's got to be Warner or Heaney, just given his size and frame. I don't think it's a Goulden type. Although like Windy has got a good tank. Bont I'm probably not looking at against Port. I think it'd be silly not to send Drew to him. And then beyond that, there's not much that interests me. Like going against West Coast, we talked about. Who's Cherry got? Cherry's got Wits. That doesn't excite me. It's probably going to be a L this week. Those that have got like Grundy, Marshall, English probably all get extra points up. Flanders against North, I'm not super keen on. So yeah, I think that'll be it. It'll be like a Dacos or a Merritt into Sarong, and maybe consider Goulden over them, just given his form. But who plays first? Oh, okay. Goulden plays after Sarong. So if I wanted to vice Sarong, I think I might go like Sarong into Goulden. I usually like trying to vice captain the person I think will score the most points this week, which should be Sarong, I think. So anyway, that's the team. That's the trades this week. That's what I'm considering over the coming ones to get some luxuries into. I think my biggest problems be like I also don't really have any loopholes at the moment. So bringing in one this week, I think makes a fair bit of sense to me. Hopefully, can start looping some of these scores because even McCurch coming back, I think I'd still like to loop one of Sean Makers or Evans with him. In the forward line, being able to loop like Dowling with someone would make sense as well. If Dowling plays early, he doesn't this week, plays the last game. Just if he scores well, taking off one of these potential poor scorers. So, yep, that's me for the week. Hope you did well, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.